We create jobs and make entrepreneurial dreams come true. ACE, a nonprofit community lender, specializes in small business loans coupled with business advisory services. ACE has loaned more than $39 million, helped over 725 business owners fulfill their dreams, and ACE has helped its clients create or retain more than 6,200 jobs. These are the stories of those businesses we've helped reach success and claim their American dream.
Welcome to ACE's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. ACE's Best Stories focuses on the entrepreneurial journey. What does it take to successfully start, grow, and manage a business? Today, we're talking with Karen Starks. She is the founder and CEO of IdeaSpace Career Training Center. Yes. Karen, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about IdeaSpace Training Center. It's IdeaSpace Career Training Center.
Yes, it's located in Snellville, right on Highway 78, like you're going towards Athens. And it was something that I always wanted to do. I had a business incubator in Birmingham.
Okay, all right.
And I rented the space from someone else. And so I just said, next time I do something like that, I wanted to have my own space.
Okay.
And so I volunteer over at South Gwinnett High School. And I wanted something close to where if I had it, the students could walk over.
Okay.
And so one day I was driving around, I was looking for a space, and I just looked up, and this building had for sale. And it was a former Waffle House.
Okay.
So people were like, it looks like a Waffle House. I said, well, once you come in, I just open space.
Yeah.
And then I kept the commercial kitchen. I redid the kitchen area and everything. So it's long space. Just picture a Waffle House with nothing in it.
Yeah.
And then like you would go back to the door to the kitchen, and then of course the restrooms are there. So. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and it's great to repurpose a space like that and to own the building at the end of the day. That's something that business owners don't often think about.
Yes. Well, I'm sure some of them out there have had the same experience where you're renting and the people may not take good care of the property.
Right.
Or every time they're raising the rent. The incubator there, I did my dissertation on entrepreneurship. And so when I had the space there, I had it so it was affordable for those who were starting off. And so when you're doing that and people see you start to do well, then they kept raising the rate. I'm like, I'm not charging them hardly anything.
Right.
This is really to help them, but everybody doesn't have the same concept.
So talk to me, doing your dissertation, you said you did on entrepreneurship?
Yes, which is a little bit different. I'm a social worker.
Okay.
And I got my PhD at Clark Atlanta. And when I decided to do it, I wanted to do it on entrepreneurship. I was interested in teen entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And you don't know what you don't know. So when I got into it, I was very fortunate. Dr. Madison Foster was teaching at Clark Atlanta at the time, and he totally understood what I was trying to do. And I learned so much about entrepreneurship. And he put some of the top people around the country, Danny Boston over at Georgia Tech, and John Butler down at Texas, University of Texas, Austin, on my dissertation committee. And it just really opened up what entrepreneurship is, and just historically how different groups, particularly those coming to America and people who had been here formerly as slaves, the kind of businesses they went into.
So I was looking for the connection between like social work and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So what?
Well, when I guess most people don't think of it that way, but for social work, it's more about social justice, and social and economic justice. I guess I should say more economic justice. So in addition, I'm a policy wonk. So my whole approach to entrepreneurship is looking at how do we mitigate policies that impact business that then impact the entrepreneur. So many people just think, oh, I'll go into business and it will be, fun. And they hear the word entrepreneurship and they just think, entrepreneurship is sexy. As they say, it's a sexy word.
It sounds like you've been talking to me because I did entrepreneurship before it was cool. In fact, I can say that, well, there was the movie The Big Chill, and one of the friends is an entrepreneur.
I remember
and all of his
movie.
friends say that means you're unemployed, right? And so it used to not be the thing, and now it's like being a rock star. And
yes, it is. And what they don't realize is that it's work.
Yeah.
And also, people get into it and they have these ideas like something they always wanted to do. Like, they may not like to cook or anything, but they will open a restaurant and then wonder why it failed.
Right.
I know when I got the Waffle House building, they were saying, oh, now you can't sell any breakfast food or anything like that. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't like to cook. And second of all, the kitchen was really, like I said, I had a teen entrepreneurs program at the same time I had the business incubator. And teens eat a lot.
Yeah.
So, going to places and buying food for them was starting to get a little bit expensive. And, this way we can make, sandwiches right there.
Right.
Mix up some Kool-Aid and, hey, be done.
Yeah.
But so that was really the heart of it in terms of starting to look at how do we help mitigate some of those policies. And I don't know if you want to go into ACE now, but that's what kind of attracted me to ACE.
Yeah. Because they definitely help bridge that, right?
Yeah. Yes. I heard a story on NPR.
Yeah.
I'm a sustaining member. I hope all those that are listening are as well. They talked about, I think they were doing a project downtown with women business owners downtown. Yeah. And I just wrote down the name in terms of looking at it. I didn't have an idea at the time about purchasing a building and things like that. And so, when I found the building, we contacted them and my realtor and, just started looking at what they would offer and things like that. So
very nice.
Yes.
So talk to me. I mean, I'm very curious about this kind of concept of how policies impact entrepreneurship because I'm a long-term entrepreneur and always feel that we're not as represented, and it's hard for us to be represented. We're not a big corporation, right? We're all kind of individuals starting our own small businesses. We've got maybe 2 or 3 employees, whatever that is. And then things happen in other places that impact our work. So talk to me a little bit about what you looked at and what you found, and is there something you can do about it, or is it just something you have to know?
Well, I think it's going into business really with your eyes open to what's there. And I will tell you, I hope I won't be talking too much out of hand, but when we had the big credit problems and things like that, I was in Birmingham at the time. And I think I recall this story correct, so hopefully I won't be misguiding the people who are listening. But I remember being over there and hearing that Bill Hurt Chevrolet went under.
Yeah.
And was being bought out. I'm like, I'm from Georgia. I'm like, Bill Hurt Chevrolet.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was huge. And so what I found was that that's when I started learning about derivatives and credit default swaps. And I think a lot of people think that banks are really there to lend money, and they're really not in terms of how they're structured now.
Right.
And so I found that some of the businesses in my incubator, they couldn't get loans, and things like that for small businesses. That's why I kept the space very affordable. But that's when I started to look at those big companies that we're competing against. Like what I learned, I don't know if this was Bill Hurt's case, but companies like him, they would go to the banks and they can get that, the credit loan or the money that they can get every month.
Yeah.
It's just
like a working capital line or something.
Yes, a line of credit. So let's just say he could go in on October 1, get $1 million. At October 31st, pay it back. November 1, get it again.
Right.
So what our concept of how businesses really operate is that we thought, everybody puts in their capital and they take their profits and reinvest into their companies, and that's not the way it works.
Right.
And it was kind of like, really, really.
Well, and you learn a lot, because I was running a business in that same time frame, and I distinctly remember I was getting on an airplane to go to the Inc. 5000 conference because our company had been recognized as one of the fastest growing. We were on the list, and I got a call that my bank was going under.
Wow.
So I'm getting on the plane and they're calling to say, by the way, you're going to see news tomorrow that we don't exist as a bank any longer. And I'm like, well, that's great because we've got an FF&E loan with you. All of our money's there. And then being a small business owner to try to manage through that. And during that same period, we ran into very large companies that were paying us, and they went from paying us a net 30 to paying us net 120, net 150. So we became their bank, right? We were delivering services and they weren't paying us and we weren't charging them interest. Yeah. So small business owners and entrepreneurs don't realize or think about that part of it. It's often like, this is this thing I'm building and I'm going to sell it to somebody, but there's so much more that can impact you.
Yes. And I think when we think of small businesses, and because that's what's touted, we think of small businesses like I said, maybe having, I guess the thing is under 50 customer employees, but most of them are just a few employees. But some of the larger companies, like Koch brothers, are structured as small businesses.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you look within their corporation, they've kind of separated out a lot of the businesses, and they're considered small businesses as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's misleading a little bit unless you really understand
Right.
what constitutes a small business. So then they get the tax breaks, they get all those things, and not just as the big corporation.
But still then work as an umbrella.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sure. So those kind of things. And so when people are going in and they just think, oh, I'm going to write this business plan and someone's going to fund it because it's a great idea. And it's just like, not really, It may be a good idea, but.
So how did you go from dissertation to deciding to open that entrepreneurial incubator space in Birmingham?
Well, that was what my dissertation was based on. So
Yeah.
when we looked historically, and I've, of course, focused on African-American urban entrepreneurs, I looked at it closely and the data is out there, it showed that there is a way where they always work together. And so when I decided I always knew I wanted to do the incubator. I guess I didn't say. I'm a professor, so I teach. So when I was looking at doing the incubator, people were asking me like, oh, are you going to try to get tenure? And I'm at the University of Alabama School of Social Work, Roll Tide. And
War Eagle, but that's okay. We can still like each other.
Yeah, we can still like each other. But I never wanted to get like tenure to stay at a university.
Yeah.
I'm of the other side that says if you're going to do all that work on a dissertation, then you put it into practice or action.
Got it, yeah.
So
because it is a lot of work to then not do something with it.
Yes,
right.
Michigan, University of Michigan, I think it is, houses all the dissertations. So for it to just sit up there, no, I didn't do all that work, and
Right.
it took a while to get everything done. So my goal was to do a teen program and do a business incubator. And so it kind of just evolved from there. And I just had enough room for about 10 entrepreneurs. And what I tried to do was attract entrepreneurs that had certain skills that we could all use.
Okay.
So we had an attorney that was
Okay.
there. We had someone in marketing. We had a tech person. And then we had some others that were different, like have different types of companies.
Yeah.
We had one that was a natural makeup company and things like that. And so they all had their own offices, and then we shared the open space. And so we could, if we needed a tech person, we contacted the tech person. Fred is his name. So we all worked together, and we just bartered on those kind of things.
Well, that's something that companies and individuals need to think about when they're looking either at an incubator, accelerator, co-working space. It's not always about the space.
No.
It's about who's at the space.
That's right.
How's that going to help your business move along? And it's really smart to have people with those different skill sets because that allows you to kind of borrow and use the piece you need.
Yes, and so those things can be prohibitive cost-wise.
Right.
Something happens to your computers, well, we had Fred that could fix everything.
I need a Fred.
And the other thing that I think that was important when we're looking at who's in the incubator and things like that is to make sure everyone that was there was certified to do what they can do.
Right.
And so, a lot of people want to start businesses, and they would come and they had this idea, but they didn't have the credentials to do what they did. And so I just pretty much said, sorry, I think you have a good idea, but, unless you have the certification or whatever, then you can't be in the incubator. I wasn't
Right.
trying to be harsh,
Right.
because people are always looking for space.
Yeah. You're trying to make sure that you're going to give people who have the greatest opportunity the chance to be successful.
And when they have, so like when Fred would go out and do his services, he was C+ certified, that they knew that it was going to be fixed right. He knew
Right.
what he was doing, and that helps build credibility, not only for them, but for the incubator.
Yeah.
That the people, if they were going to use our services, that whatever services they use, they knew that the people were competent
Yeah.
in what they were doing.
Okay, well, we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about the IdeaSpace Career Training Center and how the programs work and what you're doing within that space, those kind of things, so kind of present day, and then maybe what you think about in the future. So back in just a second, we're talking with Karen Starks. She's founder and CEO of IdeaSpace Career Training Center. You're listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We'll be back in just a minute.
If it wasn't for ACE, my business may have closed in 1 year.
If it wasn't for ACE, my business wouldn't be expanded as much as it's expanding right now. They were there for me at the time of my need.
If it wasn't for ACE, we would not be here today.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for ACE, I would very much still be cooking at an hourly rate, and I would have never impacted hundreds of lives and an entire community.
I still remember going to different kind of banks, big banks, and with papers, and these people send me back because I don't have, I had experience in the restaurant business, but I don't have, everything else this bank needed, and I believe in me.
I did the research in Adult Day. I had experienced it personally because my grandfather had Alzheimer's, so I wanted to do the business myself. Get into it because I knew I could make a difference.
Initially, when we started, there was only one person, which would be me. And then the company I've grown from 1% to 8, and we provide quality assurance, quality control testing for FDA-regulated companies.
I think Grace not only completely understands what it's like to start off in an office connected to your laundry room or wherever she was, but she also understands the growth process, and I think that she does an excellent job of making sure that everybody who works with ACE has an understanding of the kind of struggles and celebrations that you can have.
ACE has helped us with putting our business idea into the market, working with us with the business actually working, actually showing us, guiding me personally how to solve some of my marketing issue problems or with the business planning.
You don't meet many lenders that are invested in your success. And, from their classes or presentations, seminars, they really do have a vested interest in your success.
The best advice I can do to small business owners is follow your dreams, Always follow your dreams, follow your heart.
Have a plan. Just because you have a passion for it doesn't mean that you can start a good business.
Get ready for the ride of your life, and definitely make sure that you look out for fantastic resources like ACE.
ACE is a way to go.
You're just the best. They really are.
And we're back. You're listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Ace's Best Stories focuses on the entrepreneurial and small business journey. We're talking today with someone who is an expert in that category. She wrote her dissertation on entrepreneurship. Karen Starks. She is the founder and CEO of IdeaSpace Career Training Center. And so, Karen, you talked a little bit about kind of the incubator you had in Birmingham. You come over and you build this new space and this new location. Talk to me about what are you guys, what do you do? How do the programs work, and how are you involving the teens and why?
Okay. Well, one thing I wanted when I had my own space, and the reason why I kind of left it open, that it can be whatever we want the space to be, even though it's a small space. Currently, I use it for training. As I said, I'm a social worker, and I'm a clinical social worker. So right now, and I believe in having people, when they're going to start their business, to use the skills they have to start. So I, of course, from teaching and also being a clinical social worker, right now I'm providing supervision to social workers who are going for their clinical license.
Got it. And so what is a clinical social worker?
Therapist,
Okay.
person you would come to for therapy, counseling.
Oh, good. So after we're done,
Yes.
she can stay for a few minutes. I got a couple things to ask.
Yes, I've been a clinical social worker here since '87, so it's been a while. Work with children and adults and doing things around. Yeah.
Okay, so you're helping people who are going for that same kind of certification.
Yes, going for their license. So they have to have so much supervision over 120 hours. So then again, providing affordable supervision for them. So my costs are, pretty low. Well, reasonable, I would say.
So supervision meaning that while they're providing services, you're there helping make sure they're doing it right? Or?
Yes, so I'm talking to them about how do they make sure that they're following the correct theory. We also use the DSM-5 now, that's for diagnosing. So I make sure that they understand when they talk about their cases that they're properly diagnosing, things like that, using proper intervention techniques and things of that nature, cognitive behavior therapy.
Okay.
So those kind of things we talk about. And like I said, they have to have 120 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
it's almost sounds like student teaching.
Well, they're already professionals. They already have a license at the master's level, so they're just going for their clinical license. So they, for the most part, like I say, already have experience. They're just trying to get what they need so that they can take the exam. Now, I don't promise them they're going to pass the exam. I try to get them to the point where they will.
Or you might tell them that do a little bit more work, right?
Yes, need just a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're coming already as professionals. It's just helping them get to that next level. And that's what I believe in, even with the Career Training Center. So I just kind of look at how do I get people on that first rung of the ladder.
Okay.
And then once they get their clinical license, for example, it opens up to them because they can do training. They can go into private practice. They have a wider variety of jobs that they can apply for.
Got it.
And going back to the same thing with the teens, in Birmingham, I started the Teen Entrepreneurs Program, and I had about 10 teens that were in the program. And I'm glad to say they've all pretty much done well after I had worked with the majority of them from 5th grade until graduation. And I have a teen that has become famous that we didn't know. Well, we always knew that Chris was very smart and very much into entrepreneurship. And the other students I kind of recruited, but he kind of came to us. So I don't take any credit for where Chris is in terms of his success now. But I'm just very proud of him. Some may know him, Christopher Gray. He started the program called Scholly.
Okay. Yeah.
He's been on Shark Tank.
Awesome. And
his app is usually number 1 or number 2 in the Apple Store.
Oh, very nice.
And what Chris did, Chris is still the only student, I think, in the history of the U.S. who won $1.3 million in scholarships.
Oh, wow.
So he ran the gamut, all of Bill Gates, Coca-Cola, all of those. But I hope the one thing I can take a little bit of credit for with Chris, because his family also was very supportive, was that when I look at if you're going to be an entrepreneur, that you don't exploit your clients, that you come up with businesses that are very ethically run. And so when he started Scholly, essentially he aggregates all the free money that's out there. So he has an app, you put in your information, he doesn't sell your information, and literally it brings up all the free scholarship monies that you're eligible for.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's just phenomenal. And the funny story, he was on Shark Tank, and my friends were calling me like, Chris is on Shark Tank. Everybody was panicking because, that people used to go in there to sell their company. And so I called him, and he started laughing. He's like, Dr. Starks, I was on there, and, they gave more money. It was just growing so fast.
Yeah.
So he was like, they gave me more money, I think, to buy mainframes. I think that's what they gave it to him for. And so he just laughed at me because I was panicking, like, don't sell, you're doing such a good job. But he has really, at this point, a lot of the big companies are giving money. And so I'll just spell it out for in case anybody's interested. It's Scholly, SCHOLLY.
Yeah, well, I wish I had known about that a couple of years ago. I've got a daughter in college.
Oh, it's never too late because it goes for 4-year, 2-year graduate school, 2-year college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went through the whole, and she had to have the right advisors help her understand because she ended up getting scholarships to several of the schools and made the choice partly based on where she got
what you do.
The best money.
Well, and as in a way, as it should be. College is so expensive now, so it's best to be smart about it.
And so then from a teen, are you still doing teen stuff now? Or?
Well, after I left Birmingham, I told the guys, and it was half guys, half girls. I'm like, you know what? I've done it.
Yeah, right.
And so I get here, and I start volunteering over at South Gwinnett, and so I'm right back into it again. I love working with the teens. The teens over at South Gwinnett High School are great. So I'm on their board, and so that's, I guess, the flexibility of being at the university, and they are really supportive of what I do and what I do in the community. So I, go over there and volunteer a couple hours a week working with the teens around business type things or college or things like that. I did for last year, got all the seniors the Scholly app so that they can, get the money and go to school. So we're going to take that on a little bit more.
So talk to me a little bit about that, the teen, entrepreneurship and being a teen and hearing about it, because that's a new thing, right? That you're taught kind of the basics. So are you seeing more entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship type stuff taught at the teen level?
Well, yes, I think most of the schools, and we're out in Gwinnett County, and I think most of the schools have a kind of entrepreneurship component. Well, the way I got into South, I was invited to be a judge. They were having like a Shark Tank at the middle school, and met the the teacher at the time who was teaching at South. And so they're promoting it. But again, the kids are caught up in the glitz and the sexiness of it.
Yeah.
They have some great ideas. Don't know how to protect their stuff. I'm like, oh, you just don't tell people your idea without copyright your idea or something, some kind of protection. And I think when they're looking at going into it, just really trying to be more realistic about what it takes. And a lot of the kids that I work with, I tell them a lot of the teens are already on third base. Their parents own businesses. They have the financial backing and things like that. So, I tend to like the kids to have to get in there and scrap it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think that builds it.
It does. I mean, I've interviewed over 1,000 people now along the entrepreneurial journey, and I found they fall into kind of 3 categories, but then there's another variable of that. And you're either a magnify or a rectify. So you're trying to magnify because you had a great upbringing and there's something back there that just makes you want to go do it, or you're rectifying something.
Yeah.
And the most successful are typically the rectifiers, the people who are like, I got something to prove, I got some barrier to break down.
They're really, once they get into it, they realize, like you say, the things that it takes, the gumption or whatever you want to take to really stick it out.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there are going to be good times and bad times, as you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
So future for you. So what are some things that you've got in the back of your mind? What do you want to do next? Where are you headed?
Well, with the Career Training Center, I just want to expand a little bit more on the type of careers that I'm doing there. As I mentioned before, I had that commercial kitchen, but not so I can cook in it. But I am trained as a, I think it's called Safe Serve or Serve Safe. I always get it backwards. A manager. And so probably expanding in that area for people who may want to get that kind of training.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, even with the clinical training that I provide or supervision that I provide, I make it very cost effective. So for 6 hours of supervision, $100, whereas most places there's $125 per hour.
Right.
Yeah, but the whole thing is, how do we get people in that pipeline?
Yeah.
So what someone might say, oh, you're training people to be food servers, but once you get out there, once you get that certification, then you get into that, say, in this case, a restaurant, and you start to really see how things go.
Yeah.
And you start to see what you might want to do next. And that's, to me, that's the whole goal, once they get in there. But on the outside looking in, it just doesn't seem the same.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it's really about how people perceive it. Because, if you go in and think of, if you're serving a restaurant, you're serving a set of tables, think about those tables as your business.
Yes.
Right? Like, you want to get as much tips off of them.
That's right.
Same kind of thing that you see people do, like hairdressing and things like that. So it's that entry point, but then it's, and I think those entry points are so important to even knowing what do you want to do? Like, where do you want to head?
So people have a lot of, may have different talents. And so then, but there's most of those things need certification, some type of certification. So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to start expanding that a little bit more, offering that more at the center, and start to get ideas from other people about that kind of training. I, of course, won't be able to do all of it,
right?
In terms of,
but it may be a great way to
people.
use your space.
Yes. people are asking to use the space right now. It's still a little new.
Yeah.
It's like, don't touch anything. Everything still looks so nice and pretty. But, after I kind of loosen up a little bit, probably have more people to rent out the space for training and things like that.
Yeah, well, definitely. It sounds like you've got a lot of flexibility for doing all kinds of different things. And if you focus on that, because I haven't really heard anyone or a lot of companies focusing on the certification side, right? You hear like graduate degrees or technical college or whatever, but that's kind of an interesting thing. Like if I'm going through and I need to be certified for something, how do I have a place that lets me kind of do that?
And it's a lot of older people who, put off going to certain careers or going to college to have their children. And a lot of them are like, okay, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
And so they want to try different things or do the thing that they thought they wanted to do or wanted to do 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So they're kind of the people that I'm focusing on, them and teens. I know that's a wide spectrum, but
no, but they run into very similar things.
Yes, they do.
The teens are trying to determine what they want to do first and whatever. And then as you get older, you may want to make that career change.
Yes, you realize what you really wanted to do and how important it is to really work towards the things that you want.
Yeah, back in the day, I used to teach NT, Novell networks and things, certification. And most of the people who came through my class were people changing careers.
Yes.
So they'd been doing one thing that didn't exist any longer, they didn't want to do.
Yes.
And they were trying to move something else. So certification happens very much kind of in that mid-career period.
And people don't realize how many things are licensed or certified when you look at the Secretary of State, quite a few, including social work.
Right.
That you have to have that certification, that license in order to practice.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much. I've
Thank
enjoyed
you for coming
it.
in. Yeah. So we've been talking today with Karen Starks. She's founder and CEO of IdeaSpace Career Training Center and also wrote a dissertation on entrepreneurship after coming from, which is such an interesting little connection. So for the next Ace's Best Story, make sure you tune in next Tuesday at 9 p.m. when we focus on another business and what it took to start, manage, and grow that business. We'll be back then.